Hi, this is Faith, and you are watching The Faith Factor. Holla.
Former National Security Advisor John Bolton fears there is a threat to the highest levels of government, given the two national security officials who say they were overcome on West Executive Avenue by the West Wing.
Now to the rise in rent prices. We're just talking about this with some of my friends. Prices in New York City have skyrocketed. Americans across the country are struggling as the prices soar. Average monthly rents increased by 14% across the U.S. in 2021, and the cost has risen even higher, up to 40% in some popular cities like Austin, Texas.
To make matters worse, economists say rents have more room to grow. Consumer experts expect them to rise by 10% in the year ahead. These higher prices could be a key driver of inflation this year, posing yet another challenge to the Biden administration.
Joining us now is CBS News Money Watch reporter Megan Cirillo. Megan, great to see you again. So can you break down some of the price hikes in these individual cities and why some cities are seeing much higher rises than others?
Sure. So on average, across the 50 biggest metro areas in the U.S., rents rose by about 14%. But like you said, in Austin, Texas, in these coveted markets, they were up by 40%. In New York City and surrounding areas like Newark, New Jersey, New Brunswick, New Jersey, Nassau County, New York, they were up 35%, as well as by up 35% in Florida, in West Palm Beach, and Jacksonville and Miami. And as always, it's an issue of supply and demand. A lot of would-be homeowners are finding that the cost of homeownership is unaffordable to them right now. Mortgage payments are too high, so they're being pushed or forced into staying in the rental market. And there's just not a lot of inventory. Vacancy rates are low, and that's putting pressure on the cost of rent. Normally, we only see single-digit increases. In 2020, rents across the U.S. rose by 3%. So the 14% figure is really striking.
Megan, I was just mentioning, my friends and I have been talking about the price hikes here in New York City. When the pandemic hit, and the building that my family and I were living in at the time actually offered 3 months of free rent. Fast forward, what caused this rise in prices?
Right, so 2020 was a completely different story altogether. A lot of young people who were living in New York because of opportunities to work and socialize left because they weren't working, their offices were closed, and they couldn't go out and see their friends. So households bundled together. Maybe they moved home or moved in with relatives, and so they vacated those units, and rents were dropped briefly. But what we've seen since then, what we saw last year was sort of the reverse. We saw households unbundle. We even saw some divorces. So there were more people seeking homes, seeking a limited number of units available. And what we also saw was with the rise of remote work people said, okay, well, I can work from anywhere. Why don't I go down to Florida? So they may have had, so they're putting pressure on these other markets, forcing some locals to reconsider, if they can afford the cost of living.
Talk too much closeness during the pandemic, reminding people why they don't want to live anymore. All right, so of course there were these national eviction moratoriums during the pandemic, and in some areas even rental assistance, right? So people may have gotten into a position where they thought they were okay, right? That they could afford their rent, that they were feeling pretty comfortable. But a lot of those have ended now, Megan. So what should people do if they want to try and stay in their homes, but they're seeing these rent hikes that they can't afford? Are there resources available?
Unfortunately, a lot of Americans find themselves between a rock and a hard place. They're saying they can't afford to buy, but they can't afford to rent either. In the meantime, there are some these funds from the Biden administration's emergency rental assistance program that will be reallocated. The Biden administration has also said that it plans to make 100,000 units of affordable housing available in the next 3 years. And while economists expect rents to continue to rise, at some point they'll level out because landlords can only charge what people can afford to pay. So they won't rise forever. But until then, a lot of folks are going to have to, unfortunately, if they can no longer afford rent, they may have to move to a different city or a different part of the country altogether where the costs of living are more manageable given their budgets.
That's interesting. So you see this migration that we've seen, people moving from cities due to the pandemic. Do you think that will continue then?
I do expect to see more of that.
All right. Megan Cerullo, thank you so much. As always, we appreciate your time.
All right. Good morning, everybody. How are you doing today? You are watching The Faith Factor, and I am your host, Faith. And as you just saw, that was a news snippet. That was a news snippet of what is currently going on with inflation. So I know that you all see the title of the video. The video is entitled Winter is Coming. I should have entitled it Winter is Here. I should have entitled it Winter is Here. Let me go ahead and get my background music going. Hold on a second here. All right, y'all. Am I feeling it? Okay, I'm feeling it. All right, winter is here, guys. Winter is here for the lazy. Winter is here for the entitled. Now, for those of us who are used to getting out here, grinding, and making it on our own, we already know what is needed in order to survive this onslaught of inflation. And you just heard in the news, they don't really know exactly when it's going to end. Now, for those of you that know how inflation is calculated, it's calculated by the consumer price index. So it's a combination of things, okay? Now, inflation, it can't be measured by an increase in the cost of just one product or service or even several products or services, okay? But rather, inflation is a general increase in the overall price level of goods and services in the economy. So when I say overall, so just because the price of milk has gone up doesn't mean that there's inflation. Inflation is overall, so it's the price of food, it's the price of gas, it's the price of rent, and the price of purchasing homes. So overall, you'll see an increase across the board. And so that makes up what they call the consumer price index, or how they measure inflation. So now, economists and labor experts, they are pretty much saying that inflation has reached an all-time 30-year high. And it's expected to keep going up. at a range of at least 7% per year. So every year, because of this pandemic and because of the way this pandemic is being handled, you're going to see inflation continue to get worse before it gets better. So now landlords, they're increasing the rent, but like the young woman said in the news clip, they can only increase it as much as what people are able to pay. Eventually, what's going to happen is people are going to have to do a mass migration, or people are going to be moving back home with their more wealthy relatives, or worst case scenario, you'll see people living in their cars or in tent cities. It's getting real out here. So today we're going to talk about this. Winter is here, but who is winter here for? Winter is here for those who are not able to stand on their own 2 feet. And this is what I have been saying for the longest. Especially those of you that sit up here talking about a sugar daddy, which in our community, we don't really have too many daddies that got any sugar to sprinkle. In our community, our sugar daddies are these AARP, Social Security, pension, older elderly people that's barely getting by on their own. So in our community, you might have about, I don't know, 3, 4, 5 of them types of sugar daddies. But winter is here even for your sugar daddy. So when your sugar daddy ain't got no sugar to sprinkle because he barely able to pay his rent that's rising, what you gonna do? You got Instagram models coming on here crying, talking about they on the brink of homelessness and they living with their friend rent free already, and they're not able to make it because their friend who they had been parasiting off of can't pay the rent. So for those of you who are entitled and lazy and used to living off others, winter is coming. It is already here. And see, before all of this happened, I warned you. I warned all of you. Prepare, prepare, prepare. We got young adults out here that are becoming the boomerang generation. Now, let me explain to you what the boomerang generation is. The boomerang generation is the generation of young adults who had once left the nest and now they're coming back because they can't afford to live out here. Now, what does that mean for the Black community? Well, if you have a poor parent who barely can make ends meet themselves, and they thought that they had gotten a little relief because their older child had finally left the nest and taken care of themselves. And so now your poor parent, they can go and downsize into a smaller place and take what little money they have and take care of themselves. That's what the poor community does. And see, I don't want people to sit up here and gaslight and act as if we don't have a massive poor working class in our communities. Our communities are massively poor and lower middle class. So your poor and low middle class mama and some of your mama and daddies, they're downsizing because they can barely make it in this harsh economy where inflation is rising. Your parents have probably remortgaged their homes. They have probably sold their homes and they have downsized. And they were actually relieved that you got your grown butt out. So imagine the horror when they downsize and you bring your grown behind back in the house with no job. Now it's hard enough to feed one person and you're barely able to make rents. This is the state of our communities today. Because see, when white people get a cold, we get goddamn COVID. And I'm talking about the kind that kills. Our communities suffer the worst under these conditions because we're already the poorest. There's very few of us that have wealthy families to fall back on. Exactly, Tiff. Tiff says, with no job, you're eating up the fridge. Exactly. Exactly. We don't have too many wealthy blacks to fall back on in our communities. I'm just going to be honest. Now, I have a few wealthy relatives in my family that can say that they are fit for whatever comes at them. I have a couple that I can count on one hand. I can't even count on two hands that I can think of. And even they are starting to downsize and tighten their belts. But for the most part, if you look at the black economy, the average black person is averaging $50K a year, if that. So I want you all to remove the rose-colored glasses, because I would love to think that black people have progressed to a point where we're above $50K a year. But most of us are working class or lower middle class. That's the state of the black union right now. And I've known many of us that have had to downsize, have had to remortgage our homes, have had to sell homes. Everybody is tightening their belts right now. It's getting real out here. And going back to what I was stating earlier, I warned you. Prepare your children. Prepare. See, a lot of you sat up here saying, oh, little nuke, little Bree, Riri, Edward, they can live with me forever. And that's great, because you do need to give your kids a leg up. But while they living with you, are you teaching them to put money away and save for their future so that they can become self-sufficient? Because if they're just living in your house and they're not doing things like saving money, they're not doing things like learning to invest, they're not doing things like learning a trade, they're not learning things like making their hobbies lucrative, money-making ventures on top of something that they love to do, if they're not in school, but if they're just being sheltered by you, what's going to happen to them when inflation hits you. And majority of us are working poor or lower middle class. So now you got the rise of a lot of domestic violence in households, and it's not just husbands and wives, it's parents and children. And what do you think people are fighting over? Money. People are feeling the pinch and the crunch of not having a lot of resources to spare and pass around anymore. It's getting real out here. So now, while you have sheltered your children and taught them nothing but to be dependent on you, now they are eating away at you. Now they're eating away at you. And now I'm not talking about the few Black households that can sustain, because there are few that can. I'm talking about the ones that were already on shaky ground, and we have a lot of those. Too many. Now, most of the boomerang children, they come from upper middle class households where the parents can afford to let the children partake in whatever resources they have until this inflation blows over. And most of those are upper middle class and rich white folk. I'm just going to be brutally honest here. That is not a reflection of what is going on in our communities, though. We have a working class of people who are being laid off, getting sick, can't go to work, struggling to make ends meet, struggling with the increases in rent and mortgages. And they can't even fall back on the people in their household that are sitting there depending on them. And this is what I am seeing across the globe with our community. I'm seeing whole families getting put out their apartments. I'm seeing whole families getting evicted from their homes. So we have to really come up with a strategy that's going to work for those of us who are already out here struggling. Now, those of us, the small percentage of us that got it, you guys are already ahead of the game. But now we're talking about the baby boomer generation and the Generation X, the older Generation X generation that are working class and middle class, lower middle class. What exactly do those people do when their boomerang kids come home and they can barely make it? And now they're having to take care of grown children who can't make it on their own. I told you. I warned you that this was going to happen. The answer is everybody in the house got to get up and get a job. But see, When you have enabled your children to the point where they never had to contribute, they never had to pay any bills, they never had to show any type of responsibility, this is why you got people in the house arguing and fighting and damn near killing each other. Earlier this year, no, this was earlier last year, we had a black mother who was a real estate agent, and she simply asked her grown child, her son, that if he wasn't going to go to school, then he need to get a job. And his entitled, spoiled behind, entitled, lazy, spoiled, got so angry he killed his own mother because she told him he have to get a job. And there's more where that came from. There's more. If you all don't assign responsibility, and it starts in the home, it really does. I'm not saying throw the kids out before they're ready, because you can't do that, especially now. You just can't. It's getting bad out here. But you are going to have to insist on assigning responsibility in the home. Every grown person pay a bill in the house, and you're going to have to enforce that rule, because we need each other to survive now. It's getting just that bad. We got some of these people out here. They were, as I mentioned earlier, on OnlyFans, Instagram, and they were, touting their wares out there for pay. But now it's getting so bad that even these people are not cashing in like they used to. And like I said earlier, I believe it was Grandmaster Troll. I'm not going to play that young lady's video here, because it's really sad and it's embarrassing. Yes, Brandy. Yes, families need to come together, especially now. We need each other. But as I said, it was embarrassing about the young lady that was on an OnlyFans model, because she was saying that she was living with somebody already as it was, and she wasn't paying rent there already as it was. And winter came, and the person that she was depending on herself can't pay their rent, and now all of them are being thrown out. Well, what's stopping her from getting the job? Well, she says she has a criminal history. She says she has a criminal history, and that's why she needs all of you to go to her OnlyFans and donate, because she claims she can't work because she got a criminal background. Now, this is a crutch, and I'm going to tell you why it's a crutch. See, the lazy, the entitled, they're always going to come up with an excuse as to why you got to take up for their slack. And some of you know what I'm talking about. Some of you got people living in your homes right now making excuses as to why they cannot be a contributor, and steadily taking resources away from the household. Facts, Brandy. Brandy says they do hire people with criminal backgrounds these days. She's being lazy. Exactly. My point exactly. That is the reason why I say winter is coming for these people. And they're getting more and more desperate to be parasites off of you. So what they're going to do is they're going to tell you they can't do it because, and you're going to insert the excuse. While you've been out here grinding, you out here working 10, 12, 14 hours, doing all the overtime, you making up for what they not able to contribute. Coming home tired while they sitting up on your couch like a cat. This is what I'm talking about. And this is how some of your children look, by the way. There are parents that get up early in the morning and go to work every day while their kids are still at home in the bed sleep. They're grown adult children. There are some of you that work the midnight shift and you take on extra hours to bring in money. There would be no need for you to do that if all the grown people in your household got a job. Why should one person overexert themselves? I wouldn't even be able to look myself in the mirror watching my mama get up and take on extra shifts while I sit at home and do nothing. I wouldn't be able to look myself in the mirror. But you got some of these grown kids that got no problem with it. Adult males and females. Exactly. Again, Brandy says Amazon hires people with criminal backgrounds. She needs to put in an application. But see, Brandy, this is my point. People like her have been spoiled. They've been sheltered. They've been entitled. They've been told that they look good. They've been able to get by on their tits and their ass their entire lives. And so when we breed people like this, we breed people that are dependent. You're creating lifetime dependence. Now, back when we didn't have all this going on, I encouraged Black people to teach your children to save, prepare them for the world, and then push them out of the nest slowly. Because every grown person needs to get out there and learn how to make it. I tried to tell you. I tried to warn you. I tried to tell you that's how you do it. But now you got people that ain't used to going through no hard times. They have not learned the benefit of preparing for something like this, and it's all your fault. So now here they come. Boomerang. They're boomerang back into your house. And they're eating up the resources in your home. And a lot of our households are not those upper middle class or rich households. So there are limited resources here. Limited. So what happens when the queen ant goes out and, she gathers food? Now she teaches the other ants to go out and hunt. And they bring food back and they prepare for the long, hard winters. So if every ant is out there bringing something back into the hole or whatever, all right, I lost access to my mic there for a second. Can you guys hear me? Now, what happens if those ants only eat off of what the mama ant brings into the hive? Thank you, Trinity 11. She says hi. Well, if the ants are only eating off of what the mama ant brings into the hive, and perhaps mama ant brings enough into the hive for everybody to eat off of. Okay, well, that's good. There's enough resources for everybody from that one ant. But what if mama ant experiences a really, really hard winter where resources are scarce? And so now there isn't enough to bring into the hive just from her alone bringing food into the hive. Well, what's going to happen is when the winter comes, all the ants that didn't bring anything into the hive, they're going to start eating off of what little she could bring in. And when that's gone, they're going to start nibbling on the mama ant. Because eventually they're going to need food. Good afternoon, Can't Hide. So they'll nibble an arm off. So now when spring comes, the mama ant is hurt because all the ants that are not bringing into the hive, they took from her, to the point where she's missing an arm. So now she has to hobble out in the spring by herself because the ants in her hive, they not going out and bringing in nothing. She the only one that can bring in something. And so now she can bring in even less for the next winter because she missing an arm. Because the previous winter was rough. So now when winter comes again, she brought in even less than before. So what ends up happening is the parasitical ants that are in the hive are going to eat up whatever she bought in that spring and that summer. And then when that is gone, they're going to start nibbling on her again. Now she's missing a leg. And when winter is over, she's taken another big hit because the people in the hive, or the ants in the hive, they're not contributing. So now she's really hobbling out there, barely able to get anything for herself, let alone the rest of the ants that's in the hive eating up all her resources. So now rinse and repeat. Winter comes again, she bring in less and less. She's missing another arm. Winter come again, she bring in even less. She's missing another leg. And when she can't bring in nothing, they eat her to death. And this is the state of Black households that do this to the ants in their hive. If you don't teach the ants in your hive to go out and get resources, they are going to continuously depend on you until they have exhausted all the resources and pretty much plummeted you to an early death. So this is why I keep warning you. Teach your children not to be dependent on you, especially if you're poor, because you're in a situation yourself where you can either can't hide. Can't hide says sink or swim if you down or well. See, you're already in a situation yourself if you're working poor or lower middle class. So when a hard winter comes, you're gonna take a hit. And you're gonna need people in your household who are go-getters, not parasites. But if you only taught them to be a parasite, this is what is going to happen. And that is the state that we're in now. So now the damage is done. We're all in a situation where it's do or die. If you get people in your household talking about they can't contribute, talking about what they can't do, but they want to eat up at the resources, it's either sink or swim. Unfortunately, people that's in the household not contributing gonna have to go. Simple as that. Now, I've taught my children exactly what they need to do to make it out here. And thank God they are. Because if you're not a go-getter, if you're not used to doing things on your own, you're going to perish. You're going to find yourself out here drowning. And I can't for the life of me understand people that think that parasiting off the next person is going to get them anywhere. It's not. If you got a criminal record, find a job that will hire you with your criminal record. They do exist. They even have jobs now where you can work remotely from home if you have a disability. It's no excuse anymore. None whatsoever. There are, can't hide, that's a good point. She says some of us have children with mental issues. That's different, though. There are resources for them. There definitely are. And for those that can't, I'm not talking about those that can't. You got people that just are not able, but there are, resources for them, like disability Social Security, disability, they're going to get resources. So, they'll be able to kind of, do for themselves. And it kind of gives you an ability to take care of them with those resources. So even they don't come with nothing. But I'm talking about grown, able-bodied people, talking about they can't do what they can and can't do. And we are in these type of hard times. We don't have time to hear that. Even now with the stock market going up and going down, cryptocurrency not being, but cryptocurrency was never stable. You just got to be able to get out there, grind it out, and make sure that you're tightening where you need to tighten. Now out here in the Phoenix market, places where 2-bedroom apartments used to be $1,000 a month, I've seen over the last 5 years those rents go up more than 47%. Now people are paying close to $1,700, $2,000. In places like New York, it's $3,000 to $4,000. So it's no joke out here. You don't have time for people sitting up here talking about, oh, I can't because I got a criminal history, or I got a minor injury. I was watching Divorce Court the other day, and there was a black woman. It was a black couple in divorce court, and this man that this woman had married, he was a musician, and he was doing pretty good with his production company and all of that. But when inflation came, people were not, looking into the production of music industry like they used to. It's people now, their attention is focused on survival. So he wasn't making as much money as he used to in his industry. And then on top of everything, he got into an accident and he couldn't work anymore. He as a result lost his job. So now he's to the point where he's able to stand, he's able to walk. He's physically doing better. And so his excuse to her was that he can't work because he's still healing from an injury. What injury he's healing from is completely invisible. So come to find out, he's out there wearing high heel shoes. He's what do you call it? Those people that work in the industry, transvestite or whatever RuPaul does. He does those type of Hollywood shows now in heels. He can't get a regular job, and he claims that his injury is so bad that he can't stand at a regular job, but he's able to get out and work in heels. And evidently he was working it and not putting no money back into the household. And so she continued to take care of him and pay all the bills. And so that's why they ended up in divorce court. A lot of divorces are initiated by women, but it is because of stuff like this. This is why I get so irritated when black men get on here. And I'm sorry I don't want to turn this into a gender war thing, but I'm making a point. A lot of these black women are initiating these divorces for valid reasons. Now, how many of you black men in here will tell that woman to stand by that man. She needed to cut the dead weight off in that relationship, and he was dead weight. So for all of you sitting up here touting black women initiate divorce, there might be very good reasons why. And I say this to say, when you have dead weight like that, do exactly as that woman did. Don't be afraid to cut the dead weight. And this is for men too. These are hard times. It's going to take two incomes now. If you have a woman at home and she's seeing that all, not just some, but all of your money is going towards household expenses. She's sitting at home. Y'all ain't got no kids. She ain't got no disability, but she gonna sit up there and watch you take all of your resources and put it into the household where you got nothing left, and she's not trying to get out there and work. I would not blame you if you cut the dead weight. Not at all. Precisely. Can't Hide says she gets to go. Yes, she gets to go too. Because see, this inflation, it's gonna get worse before it gets better. We ain't got time for people sitting around here trying to be leeches and parasites because they done got used to it. If you see that your man is out there struggling, and these are times where y'all is really getting ready to sink, because the rents are going to keep increasing. What happens when the rent increase and his income is not going to be able to cover it? You're going to have to get out there and work. You're going to have to work too. And I'm going to tell you guys, sometimes it's better if you're going to struggle. Better for you to do bad by yourself. You don't need no help to starve to death. That's for men and women. Right, Can't Hide. Get up, get out, and get something. That's how bad it's getting. It's getting that bad. And people who have been used to just taking, well, you're gonna kill the goose that lays the golden eggs because you lazy and you entitled. This is not the time for that anymore. Now, I'm not talking about people that are dealing with people that got wealth. Because see, you know the difference between people that got wealth, that got way more than enough to pass around. I'm not talking about those people. In our community, we're dealing with working poor and lower middle class people. And this inflation is crunching down hard on this group. Real severely hard. Right, Can't Hide. She says, I don't understand how all these people quit their jobs and now they're complaining that they can't find work. A lot of these people got used to, and I'm going to talk about that as well. A lot of these people got used to the entitlement programs and the stimulus programs that was passed down to them during the pandemic. And it was a stimulus program to help boost the economy, give you something to springboard off of so that you can bounce back on your feet. But instead, it did the opposite. It made a lot of people lazy. So a lot of people took the pandemic unemployment, and a lot of them were making actually more with the pandemic unemployment than they had made when they were working. And the pandemic unemployment was extended and extended and lasted over a year. So if you've been off work over a year and you're getting more money than you made when you were actually working, then you're getting stimulus check after stimulus check because you got kids in the household. And then on top of that, you're getting the rent assistance. That can make you lazy. And so what these people didn't know, or what they didn't prepare for, is when that rug got pulled out from under them, because they pretty much just sat back and took the entitlements. So now there's a big push to return to work, and they don't want to. They got used to just being leeches and sponges off the system. I'm just going to be honest. And now I'm not saying that these people were wrong for taking the help, because it was definitely needed in a lot of these households, but they were wrong for not making a plan, because there was a deadline, there was a date, there was a time given to them when this was going to end. You understand what I'm saying? Anybody who has ever received a government program, you know that they tell you how long you're going to be receiving it. They give you an expiration date, don't they? So what a lot of these people did was, in spite of seeing an expiration date, they let the expiration date come and go, hoping that there will be another extension of that entitlement. I'm just going to be honest with you and tell you exactly what's going on out here. And so when people got the rent moratoriums, y'all remember the rent moratoriums? Well, people were able to stay in their apartments, and they were able to stay in their homes that they were mortgaging or what have you during those moratoriums. So there was a stall on evictions. So while you had 2 months, 3 months, 4 months, however many months, you knew how long that moratorium was going to last. Why did you not plan to save up your money to come up with a payment for your rent, or move somewhere else? But instead, these people did nothing. They took their pandemic unemployment and they were buying cars. I saw them. They took their pandemic unemployment and they were buying expensive purses and clothes and shoes. They took their pandemic unemployment and did everything with it except prepare to survive. And that's what we do, unfortunately. And so during the time that we were getting this pandemic unemployment and all these social entitlements, all these stimuluses. What was going on? Well, Christmas came. I saw a lot of people balling out for Christmas, buying cars for their kids, the little toy cars with the pandemic unemployment stimulus checks that they were getting for the kids. I saw people doing it big for New Year's. All these holidays went past, people were blowing money. And then when the rent moratoriums were up, now all of a sudden people looking around, I thought they might extend it one more time. Do you understand that the government don't have that much money to keep taking care of you for infinity? And that money is not free. It's not free. You're on borrowed time and borrowed money that has to be paid back with interest. And that interest is inflation. You thought it was free? That's the reason why rent is going up. That's the reason why food at the grocery store is increasing. That's the reason why we have soaring gas prices. Because somebody got to pay for all them entitlements. And I warned all of you. I say, yeah, these $1,400 stimulus checks, they looking good right now, but wait, just wait. Wait until your rent go up. Yeah, this pandemic unemployment looks good. Some of y'all getting $1,000 a week, but just wait. Just wait when you got to go to the supermarket and milk is almost $4. Just wait. I told you this would happen. Oh, and Cremature, I'm pissed off too. I like to smoke a nice cigar. I like a nice Cuban cigar, a nice imported cigar. So I started, I went down from my regular Cuban to Romeo and Juliet, because Romeo and Juliet is the most inexpensive high-end cigar out there now. Yeah, but the price of cigars really went up. Everything free ain't really free. You're gonna have to pay for it in one form or another. Welcome, Faith Ward. So you guys, I'm gonna go ahead and end it on this note. Winter is here. Winter is here. Now, it's not that it's coming. I need to change the title. But winter is here for the lazy and the entitled. And some of you, it's not just on your parents, by the way. When you turn 18, there is a certain responsibility on you to have within yourself wanting to be self-sufficient. There are some of you that never want to be self-sufficient, and that is on you alone. Now, my parents, they did good by me, my brother, and my sister. But when I turned 18, I had an inner desire within myself to be self-sufficient and know how to go out here and take care of myself. I had no inner desire to continue depending on my parents. because I knew one day my parents would get old, and I knew one day that they would have to fend for themselves, as far as I would not be able to continue living in their home and taking resources. So I had that inner desire to get out there and learn how to do it on my own. Every grown person should have that inner desire. Plus, I wanted privacy. I wanted the freedom and the privacy to be able to come and go as I please and make my own choices and call my own shots in my own dwelling place. And I couldn't do that in my parents' house. So my pride would not let me continue to stay on my parents for an extended period of time. But some of y'all ain't got no pride whatsoever. Some of y'all don't have no ambition. Some of you are not resourceful. There's something wrong with an adult that has no ambition and no resourcefulness to make it on their own. There's something definitely wrong. And as a parent, you need to identify this, because that's going to be a problem in the future. You don't realize it. You think you're doing right by sheltering them, but you're not. Like, even in my relationship that I'm in now, I do depend on my guy to provide certain things for me, to protect, to provide, etc. But I also am realistic enough to know that we're not married. So I continue to do certain things for myself, knowing this. I also know that he can't be with me at all times. So a smart woman, knowing this, she's going to do things to prepare herself. The other day, I was out and I got a flat tire. And I had used up a lot of my roadside services helping my daughter, because she has a vehicle too. And I had to get on her because she wasn't paying for her own roadside services. So she kept calling and using mine. I had to cut her off. But because I had been helping her with her stuff and I had been using it for my stuff, I ran out of roadside services. But because I'm resourceful, I don't depend entirely on roadside services. Now I have a man that can come and change my tire, but he was out of town. So what did Faith have to do with no roadside service? I went into the back seat of my car. I pulled out my spare tire. I pulled out my electronic hydraulic jack. And I pulled out my electronic nut loosener. And I went and I put that electronic hydraulic jack under my car, plugged it into my cigarette lighter, and I just simply pressed the button. And I watched that jack go up and lift my tire off the ground. And then I unplugged that and plugged in my electronic nut loosener. And I loosened the nuts on the tire that was on my car. And I removed that tire off the tire mount. I then took my spare tire and I put it where the other tire that was flat. I replaced it. And then I took the nuts and I put it in each nut hole, and I took my electronic nut tightener and I tightened all those nuts. And when that was done, I took my electronic hydraulic jack, my excuse me, I almost forgot what it was called. My electronic hydraulic jack, I plugged it back in and I lowered my vehicle safely back onto the ground. I took the tire that was damaged and threw it in my trunk, and I put everything away. Drove to a shop where they put a new tire on. Faith was not going to be stuck on the side of the road because her man out of town and she don't have any more service calls. I always have a plan A, which is my man, a plan B, which is my roadside assistance, and the plan C, which is myself. But one thing is for damn sure, I am not going to be out here struggling because I'm lazy and entitled. And with that, I'm going to leave you with peace. I'm out.